Come from a family of beekeepers that go back. I'm a fifth generation beekeeper, and my great grandfather was given 7 hives of bees as a wedding gift in North Georgia, and he and my great grandfather expanded those hives. Then my grandfather and my dad actually turned it into a commercial beekeeping business, relocated to southeast Georgia in the late 40s, and from there it grew into a packaging queen production business. I was born into that, and so from the time I was able to walk and talk, I knew honeybees.
There's a awareness that sustainability of how we treat ourselves and the planet, and I guess maybe I had a little bit more time on my hands, and so instead of just thinking of bees as something you didn't want to step on or something you could buy in the store in terms of honey, I thought, why not help the bees? Because back about 5 years ago when I started, it became clear that we really had some problems with the bees. And I thought, well, I could have bees, and also we live out here in the beautiful countryside, which is by policy only organic land. And so I thought, geez, we have organic land, I have a little bit of time on my hands, I have this interest. I found a friend that had a hive, and he says, just do this, this, and this. I thought, well, that's pretty simple. And bees do most of the work, and I read a little something, and it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and a lot of fun. And you feel real good.
Well, we used to live in right in town, and we always had a garden. We moved out here. We just wasn't getting any pollination. A friend of mine, well, the first year, I planted 1 package of squash seed, which was acorn squash, which was 5 hills. That year we got 23 squash. The next year, a friend of mine brought some bees out here because I was always interested in them, and I planted a package of seed, 5 hills. We got 230 acorn squash. That convinced me.
Whether directly or indirectly, honeybees are responsible for 1 out of every 3 spoonfuls of food that we put into our mouths. They're a part of our nation's pollination cycle, and pollination is crucial for plant life to thrive, whether it's flowers, fruit trees, some crops, produce especially. Bees are an integral part of that, and so when a person or people become involved with bees as beekeepers, whether it's just 1 hive in their backyard or whether they keep 10 hives or whether they make it a small business or even become a commercial beekeeper, they're playing a role in the process, and they're helping in that pollination cycle, which is crucial to basically everything that is necessary for us to eat in this country, and we're very blessed in that sense.
Because we're out here, we have organic land, we play this ancient Vedic music, this Zander Vedic music, which creates harmony in nature, so we play that 24 hours a day if we can, usually during the day, sometimes at night. We actually have them in a vastu, we have them oriented towards the east light, and we have them any way we can. We put plants around them that they would appreciate, so we plant sort of a yard around them, and try to take care of them, put a pool of water out there so they have a local pool of water. So we do whatever we can that we think they would like to have to be nurtured. What are you doing out here? Huh? From our side, we go in there And we talk to our bees, and we ask them first if we can come in and we can participate, and we can, if we're taking honey, can we take their honey, and so forth. We try to teach them the 3 S's: very sweet, very slow, and very soft. That's our approach. What this guy's doing out here, I don't know. Very young. Want to go back in? There you go, come on.
I've always been interested in beekeeping, but it wasn't until I had the time after I took retirement and moved out here and really started working with them. They'll humble you real quick. We always like to see the queen. She's quite a bit bigger than the others, and looks like a pretty good queen. She's crawling along the bottom there. Beekeeping runs over a whole year's period. In the spring, bees we keep them in 2 boxes because they have to have 75 to 100 pounds of honey to overwinter. I take what we call splits out, generally in May, 1st of May, where we start new hives. I buy queens and we start new hives that way. Then next thing we do is super, and hopefully by fall we have a honey crop.
So there's a lot of checking up on them early, and then once they start to build up, periodically you need to go in the hives and make sure they're not getting overcrowded. If they're really doing well, they'll get overpopulated, and their natural tendency is for population control is to swarm. And so you really don't want to lose your hives to a swarm, because you'll lose some of your bees. So if you give them more space, and there are certain management practices you can put into place to keep them from swarming, that ensures that you're going to have a stronger, more populated colony that's going to be a better honey producer. So we're going to go in. I've already checked on it one time. She was doing well, she was laying, but I do want to check her again before we get too far along into the fall. I want to make sure that she's still doing a good job and that the colony is going to be in good shape going into the winter. Keep a close eye on them. And then once it starts getting cold in November or so, you just leave them to go dormant and to take care of their queen. They cluster up, and the bees that live through the winter live 3 to 4 to 5 months long, whereas bees during the spring and summer only live 6 weeks or so because they're working so much. The ones during the winter, their primary job is just to huddle and keep the queen warm, keep her alive so that she's ready to go early next spring. And so obviously there's very little hands-on maintenance involved during the winter. You just hope for the best, hope they make it through, and then get ready to go again in the early spring.
My approach to bees, I read things and I try to be up on what people think about things, but in general, I just leave them alone as much as I can. I mean, they've been around a lot longer than I have. They've been around for a very long time. They seem to know exactly what they need to do. Because I have them in boxes and I want to protect them a little bit, as opposed to having Mother Nature just go after them, I will do some things for them that are considered good beehive practices. But in general, I try not to disturb them. I try not to get involved. I try not to disrupt them or manipulate them. I try to let them do their thing.
Have any of your hives been hit with sickness before, and what is that like for you? How do you deal with that?
No, not really. Of course, we always have trouble with the varroa mite. It looks like just like a wood tick, does the same thing on a bee that a wood tick does. It's called Varroa destructor. It looks just exactly like a wood tick, about the size of a pinhead. There'll be hundreds of them in a hive. So we treat for that. I generally treat them in the spring, and then in the fall I use an organic product. It's not too hard on the bees.
Looks pretty empty. Oh, we got moths. See the mess? Absolute mess. This hive is a disaster.
A complete disaster. See that mess? Completely infiltrated with wax moths. And they probably chewed up every single frame in there. So this hive is probably almost a complete loss. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with the bees. I'll have to decide. But that's what happens when they get weak and I wasn't around to check on them. They get laid little tiny eggs and then they get bigger and bigger and they just go through, eat the wax, pollen. It's fantastic. They got all the protein and carbohydrates they need. But boy, do they make a wreck of a hive.
If you can do everything in your power to make sure they're healthy, then you leave it up to them. And obviously there's things out of your control that sometimes you get disappointed or frustrated in if the colonies do fail to thrive. And when you lose one, you're disappointed and you have to start over. But then again, that's the reminder that this is nature, and for us to try to be involved in it, sometimes we do too much or we don't know exactly what to do. But yeah, you do take ownership in it, you take some pride in it when they succeed, and you are disappointed when they don't do as well as you would hope. We have so many other factors in beekeeping now that make it difficult to do it easily, I guess you could say. There are so many different pests and diseases and things that you have to try to manage. And again, you just leave the bees to do what they can do.
Beekeeping really helps you get in touch with something other than just your busy daily life, like with nature, with things that are organic, things that are out there making the planet work. And so when you spend time with the bees, it's very calming, it's very settling. It's not like sitting in front of your computer doing a bunch of emails and organizing business and the whole thing like that. It's another world. You basically step into another world which is as ancient as anything else on this planet.
I can sit and watch them all day.
I love nature. I appreciate God's creation in nature, and bees tend to teach us a lot of things if we'll take the time to watch them.